Welcome, beautiful people. This is Students of the Game, College and Pro Edition, and class begins now. Welcome in. Here we go on Franklin's bye week. Students of the Game is bringing you just the college football and NFL football since there is no Franklin game to preview. We'll be back next week, but as this episode, we're just going to focus on the Saturdays and Sundays, also Thursday night game and Monday night game. Don't worry. I'm your host, Gentry, Neese, joined here by the expert on all things football, Jett Wilson. Jett, how you feeling on this beautiful bye week?
Not like an expert, I'll tell you
Not
that.
like an expert.
I'm excited to talk a little college and NFL for a change, but miss the boys, man.
I do. I miss the boys. I hope they're getting their well-deserved rest. We just couldn't go a full week without talking some sort of ball.
Needed some
ball. Real quick, before we get into it, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like and subscribe, or you can listen to us as a podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Students of the Game TN is the Instagram handle with a link tree for everywhere. And Students of the Game TN at gmail.com if you want to have another fireside chat where we can answer one of your fan listener questions.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to start by talking some college ball on this special episode in a brand new college segment I like to call The Road to Glory. Here we go. Jett, before I like to get into the future, I like to go back to the future a little bit, back to the past. Okay, so let's look at last week's game because there was a lot of crazy games going on in the college game. I know you probably watched pretty much. You were flipping around. I bet you couldn't pick a bad game.
I sat down on my couch on Saturday at about 7 a.m. and stayed there until about 10 p.m.
Okay.
I tried to stay up for the Miami game.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to question on why you're getting up at 7 a.m. on Saturdays. I don't know what's going on.
Game day.
Okay, all right. That's fair enough.
I'm so wired after the Friday night. There's no sleeping in on Saturdays.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're going to go. The first game I want to talk about briefly is Minnesota beats USC. There were a lot of ranked teams that went down, upset by non-ranked teams. Minnesota beating USC, and then was kind of the first one. Texas A&M, who is ranked, but they're 25, they beat number 9 Missouri and really rocked them. And I know you probably caught a couple glances at this game.
Sure.
Any thoughts on that one? How did that game go down?
That was actually one where number 25 Texas A&M was favored going into the game against number 9 Missouri. A lot of question marks on why the number 25 was favored against number 9, but Vegas won on this one.
They say the house always wins. Vegas probably knows something that's going on.
A&M beat them badly, and the Missouri offense just had no life the entire game. Connor Wegman, I think his name is, came back from injury at quarterback for A&M. They were firing on all cylinders with him. I thought Marcel Reed had done a great job.
Shout out Marcel.
NBA.
That's right. Shout out Marcel.
But Connor Wegman stepped in and really made that A&M offense click.
The next one was unranked Washington beating ranked Michigan. Did you catch a glance at any of this game?
I did, dude. I had money on Michigan. They were in I had them in a lay.
Yeah, okay. Respect.
They spotted Washington 14-0 and then put in a new quarterback that could kind of pass the ball a little bit. But it just wasn't enough to come back.
Not to fade you on this, but I actually had Washington money line here, so I was actually okay with the end result of the game.
That's why you're the expert.
Far from it. So I was actually okay with the end result of this game. Now let's dig into probably the two most interesting upsets of the weekend: Arkansas beating UT at home and Vandy at Arkansas, and then Vandy hosting Alabama and beating them. Let's start with that Arkansas UT game. Jett, what are your thoughts on that upset?
I think Arkansas has a better ball club than they've been given credit for, but I still thought UT was going to go in there and take business. I thought, Georgia already has the loss on the season. Bama lost earlier that day. I thought this was going to be Tennessee's moment to kind of step up in the SEC.
Yep.
And they ended up following suit with the rest of them losing.
Anytime Sam Pittman, the coach of Arkansas, the head coach of Arkansas, anytime he's a dog. He has a physical team, right? Yeah. So UT knew going in this was going to be a physical game, but it was on the road. And Jett, I think Nico is a really talented quarterback.
No doubt.
However, this season, what I've seen is him beat up on some really bad teams at home in a comfortable position. Yet when there is pressure on him on the road in an SEC environment, he kind of struggles, okay? I know I want to use a life analogy here where then you're on vacation, as a kid, you've got your dad driving the minivan, you know what I mean? And what if someone forgets the map or the GPS goes out, you go out of bars, you run out of the dead zone. When the GPS goes out, your dad or mom or whoever's driving the car still has to be the one to get the family home, okay?
For sure.
When Nico is uncomfortable on a football team, when the GPS goes out, the quarterback is the one that's supposed to figure out how to get the team home, okay? Nico has to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in those environments, because I've seen him throw beautiful balls to wide open receivers against Kent State, who couldn't beat St. Francis the week before. So that while the talent he does pass the eye test, when you're the final play against Arkansas and you scramble out right, and you've got to have situational awareness where you got to give your receivers a chance in the end zone and know, hey, you got to get rid of that ball, or if you are gonna throw it away or something, it's got to happen so fast. But after you scramble around, that clock hits triple zeros. You got to give yourself a chance. And it's just kind of demoralizing to watch him run out of bounds like that. Yeah. Like Joe Milton circa Ole Miss 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, right. And I think, like you said exactly, Tennessee fans hate to see that. It's really disheartening. Yes. But there was a lot more issues for him in that game. And it kind of falls more on Nico than it should because of that last play where it was boneheaded, straight up. But that was still just one play. I think he doesn't have a lot of help from his receivers right now.
It's very true.
Not a lot of weapons, and then it should be explosive offense. But yeah, Tennessee's got to figure it out.
I think they will. I think Nico's talented enough to figure it out. I think their team is talented enough to figure it out. They got a big test next week against Florida, which is always a close game. Remember, they dropped that game last year. They got upset in the swamp. This one goes back out to Rocky Top, where everybody was singing their praises. I watched the game. I was watching that UT Arkansas game amongst a slew of UT fans, and they were fired up after that game. So I can't wait to see them storm out back in.
That's a big one, and Tennessee definitely needs to pick up a win in this rivalry game, and they got Bama the week after.
Oh, so come on. They've got to go a little bit of a gauntlet.
Have to take care of Florida here, at home especially.
Absolutely.
They're 15.5-point favorites, so they're heavily favored.
So next game is talking Vandy at Bama. Man. Okay, let's talk about this one.
The greatest moment in Vanderbilt history.
40 years since Vanderbilt has beaten Alabama. Jett, what were your thoughts after watching this game? Could you believe what you were seeing?
I couldn't believe it the entire time I was watching it. After watching Alabama go and bully Georgia for 3 quarters, going out and seeing them get bullied by a Vanderbilt team was just shocking for the whole 60 minutes. Absolutely. I was kind of just waiting for that time where Bama was going to figure it out. And offensively, they kind of did. But defensively, man, they couldn't get anything going.
There was a shot of Malachi Moore, a defensive captain on the Alabama team, and he was furious. He was throwing his mouthpiece. He was yelling at different players, so much so that at one point the defensive coordinator tried to pull him out of the game, and he told the guy coming in to get back out, and he started yelling at his coaches in silence. He refused to come out of the game. And now, Jett, we followed Saban for a long time.
Yeah,
and I don't want to blame too much on Kalen DeBoer here, but what I do know is that's not happening under Nick Saban.
You said it perfectly. It's not. It's really hard to follow in Saban's footsteps. So to look back and be like, oh, well, Saban, you can't really do that if you're an Alabama fan.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that happens to most teams, but not Nick Saban teams.
Right,
so it's going to be a hard adjustment for Bama fans going from the glory that they've had with Nick Saban to, kind of a little bit more down to earth. Like normal football teams that are good get upset. Every once in a while. Just not Saban. Normal football teams have players throwing fits on the sideline when it's really emotions get high.
Exactly. It's a competitive sport, a competitive game. I was reflecting on this game with producer Chuck after the game. Okay. And I thought my comp for this game was like, well, remember Saban's first year when they lost to University of Louisiana Monroe? I said, maybe that's just Kalen DeBoer's. This is the Kalen DeBoer's version of that. But he said, remember, Saban was taking over a terrible team that he had to build the talent. Kalen's taking over Saban's team, which has all the talent in the world that went to the playoffs last year. Great point by producer Chuck there.
It is a great point by producer Chuck.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now let's move on to this week's game. We've already previewed the UT Florida game. I can't wait for that one. Jett, you've got some Oklahoma fandom with you. Let's talk about the Red River rivalry because Texas now, I guess, is the only undefeated SEC team left on the board. And so, talk to me about what this game means as being in that Oklahoma fandom.
Yeah, this is always the biggest game of the year for both of those teams.
No matter what, throw the records out. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
No matter who's ranked number one and who's unranked. Last year was a big upset Oklahoma had over Texas, and a Texas team that was favored heavily. This year is going to be tough for Oklahoma because of their injuries. Okay, new quarterback Jackson Arnold got benched, and he's taken over a system. Their top 4 receivers are out, and they've been out the last couple of weeks. So not a lot of help that he's getting out of the guys around him. Oklahoma's going to have some Sooner magic to take care of this one in Dallas. But Texas is a very tough.
I love this tradition. It's always at the Texas State Fair, right? Is that right there in that stadium? And they always split half and half, so you get the sea of red on one side and get the sea of that University of Texas orange on the other side. Matthew McConaughey's probably going to be about. Baker Mayfield's probably going to be down there. You know what I mean? Supporting the boys. It's always a fun atmosphere. I wouldn't be surprised if College Game Days probably use that word.
I think it's either there or Oregon.
Ohio State. Good. Okay.
Toss-up.
Either way, it's going to be a great atmosphere at that Texas State Fair. A lot of people at USC are saying, oh, they're kind of mad at Lincoln Riley right now, okay? But then I look back and they're kind of saying, oh, should he have ever left Oklahoma and everything? And I was Oklahoma like, do we really want him back? Look how he's performing at USC. But in reality, and I like Brent Venables, I think Lincoln Riley's team are always in a lot better spot than Brent Venables has them in right now. They are 121st in the country in offense. Yeah, and maybe that's less due to coaching and more to your point, due to injuries and due to new quarterbacks. But 121st, that's not even close to par to where you need to be in the SEC.
Unexcusable. Yeah, you said it best.
So the next game, to your point, let's go to Ohio State, Oregon in Eugene. Okay, not a lot of people who have never played in Eugene, they don't realize how loud those Oregon Duck stadiums gets. Any thoughts going into this game?
I haven't had a chance to watch either of these two teams this season. I know Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State has been balling. I know they have a lot of receivers on the Ohio State side that are good. But I like that Oregon team. I think they're coached well. They got a veteran at quarterback. They've kind of been going up as a program, waiting to take that next step to be one of the elite teams. Maybe they do it this week with a big statement win over OSU.
Dan Lanning is the head coach for Oregon. He used to be a Kirby Smart guy who used to be a Saban guy. Big defensive guy. Great coach. They've got Oklahoma's old quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, who's he's not a strong arm guy. He's pinpoint accuracy guy. Get the ball out quick. It is mobile, but...
And he's played in big games.
But Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, and that is a steal of an offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly, what you see in this spread offense now can be attributed a lot to revolutionized by Chip Kelly when he was originally at Oregon. So this was, he made his name. Before that, he coached at Rhode Island, is where he got his first coaching start, and then got up to Oregon, and really changed the program over there with this new kind of spread up-tempo offense that we see is pretty much the norm nowadays. Yeah. He can run the ball very well. Ohio State has 2 running backs that would be Heisman contenders and starters on any other team. And to think about it, at Boise State, when they played Oregon in Eugene earlier in the year, Austin Gentry, their running back, a Heisman probably finalist running back, rushed for 195 yards against Oregon in Eugene. So with these 2 running backs Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, thank you. I can see, and Chip Kelly loves to run the ball. When he was coaching the Eagles in the NFL, whether they made the playoffs or not, they were number 1 in rushing. Even on Oregon's down years, they were number 1 in rushing. And when he coached UCLA, they weren't going to conference championships, but they led the Pac-12 in rushing. And so with these 2 running backs and how Boise State was able to run on Oregon and Eugene, I don't see any reason that Ohio State, and that's how you calm a team down when they play. You start running the ball nice and easy. Everybody calm down. Sure. That's how you get it. So I don't see any reason Ohio State should lose this game. Ole Miss LSU is the final one.
That's a great SEC matchup, man. Ole Miss dropped one a couple weeks ago, obviously. I think they're going to continue to build back up from coming down after that loss. They're a fun team to watch, dude. I love Lane and what he's got going on. I love Lane. Did you see Lane
last week in the press conference? Watch the Vandy Alabama game. Did you see this? Okay. So Lane Kiffin in last week's press conference, he was asked a question and he completely ignored it because he had the Vandy Alabama game up on the background. And his answer to the question was, how many timeouts does Alabama have? It's like he's trying to figure it out on his end.
He's
like,
just a football guy.
This is historic what we're watching here. This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal. And boy, was it. Okay, yes, I'm excited to watch Lane. I'm excited. That game is another big rivalry game. I can't wait to watch it. Jackson Dart and the boys.
I don't love LSU's quarterback. I know he gets a lot of
Musburger? Is that Musburger? Yeah. Or Nessmeyer. Yeah.
Not a huge fan.
Musburger, I think, is the guy calling the game. so there you go. Yeah. Him and Gary Daniels up there.
He's just a vanilla guy.
Yeah, okay, all right, I get that.
Yeah, that's it.
Here we go. I'm going to pick my line of the week. Vandy, I think, just carries that momentum from Alabama. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They're plus 13.5 at Kentucky. Give me Vandy plus 13.5 for a line of the week. I don't know if they upset Kentucky coming off of Alabama, but I think they play a close one.
Yeah. Riding with the doors.
Do you have a college line of the week?
I do have a college line of the week.
All right, come on.
Give me Rutgers minus 2.5 versus Wisconsin.
Rutgers minus 2.5 against Wisconsin.
Rutgers can run the ball.
Yeah, wow.
They were undefeated till last week. They lost to Nebraska. A little Big Ten matchup.
It's
getting a little chilly.
Okay. Maybe bring a flannel.
I watched Wisconsin against USC. They didn't really impress me. Mm-hmm. They can run the ball pretty well, but Rutgers, great run defense. Mm-hmm. Great running offense at home. Dropped one last week. It's going to be a group of motivated guys.
Okay.
Going into Big Ten play, trying to get a big win. Give Rutgers minus 2.5.
Well, I love that. I mean, those are just the Midwest game up there of the week. I absolutely love that line of the week. Now switching to NFL, our normal segment in the Shark Tank. Give me the music. Ready? Dun 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 dun. See, that was much better. That was solid. Okay, good. Okay, let's talk about some news in the NFL this week. Now that we've got some time to. Let's first talk about the Bills-Texans game. Great AFC matchup. The big talking point is at the end of the game, the Bills were backed up at their goal line, and it was a tie game, 20-20. And normally your thought process is, hey, let's run the ball out. Let's let the Texans burn their final timeouts. Let's just try to get into overtime, and we can kind of reset the game. They do not do that. No. They trust in Josh Allen, and they throw the ball three straight times and have 3 incompletions. Yeah. Texans save all their timeouts. They get the ball punted back, end up in field goal range, and Kayami Fairbairn, the Texans kicker, kicks a 58-yard field goal for the win, and that game plan completely backfired. Jett, talk to me about it.
I mean, I know it's been very controversial that he threw the ball 3 times, but he put the ball in Josh Allen's hand and expected him to get at least 10 yards in a drive where you're assuming the defense going to play shell coverage and not give up that deep ball. I see the hindsight where they could have had a better chance of pushing that game to OT. But I really don't hate the play call just because you got Josh Allen, dynamic, top 3 quarterback in the league, indisputed. And putting the ball in his hands at that point, I don't think it was a terrible play. I mean, maybe once you got down to 3rd down, run the ball. But I don't hate being aggressive there just because you have Josh Allen.
I would agree with you. However, Newton's first law of physics is an object in motion will stay in motion unless...
Great point.
Unless...
You finish.
Yeah, okay. Object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. That outside force, to me, is Josh Allen getting in concussion protocol early in the game. He got knocked out earlier in the game. So normally I agree with you that Josh Allen's talent, I would bet on him. But after getting knocked out earlier in the game,
flopping around on the ground.
Exactly. So I don't know in that situation, applying Newton's law would be. I wouldn't know if I trust that.
Great point. And he had been playing terrible. He had his worst stats he's ever had in the game. But that's something that hasn't gotten any attention. He was out cold.
He was
on the ground.
And one play later.
2 plays, one play later.
Now, in the Bills' defense, if my backup quarterback was Mitch Trubisky, I'd want to get Josh Allen back out of there as soon as possible. Okay.
But it's one of those things where Josh is just a football guy.
He is. He doesn't want to come out.
3rd down. I'm going in.
Grabs his helmet, throws it back on. Okay. Some other news.
Yep.
Okay. Old Robert Saleh, Bob Saleh, the head coach of the Jets, is fired. It is his 3rd season, but only after 5 games. And that's the first time he's had with Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Here's my take on that. The Jets lost to the Minnesota Vikings in London. okay?
Right.
Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, was the U.S. ambassador to London. So he's probably up there in the press box with all of his former London buddies, his other London friend billionaires, you know what I mean, with these estates and trust funds, okay? And he's trying to go across the pond and press him and say, hey, look at this team I own. Look how good my football team is. And then they lose to Sam Darnold in the Jets. And the guy the Jets drafted, the guy who originally drafted, and he gets a little embarrassed, and then 2 days later, he fires the head coach. You're telling me there's no correlation there, Jett? What say you?
A lot of people say it's Aaron Rodgers. Gentry thinks it was Tommy Shelby. Well, I don't know what happened, because firing him 5 games into the season is almost crazy tall. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So there's got to be something going on. They said it wasn't Aaron Rodgers, reportedly. Aaron was just as blindsided as everyone else.
Yes, Aaron was interviewed on the
wink.
Yeah, he was interviewed on the Pat McAfee show where he gives a full explanation. So we're not going to go too deep into it. But to your point, yes, he says
I can't believe it, because they could have won that game easily against Minnesota. They were at the 10-yard line driving.
Exactly, yes.
If they score a touchdown, they win. And Aaron threw a pick, and they lost.
And Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions that game, I think. And Bob Salah is a defensive coach, and the best part of their team is their defense.
Yeah, their defense is great.
If anybody, you got to get Nat Hackett out of there, the offensive coordinator.
But that's the control Aaron has.
Yes, Aaron wants Nathaniel Hackett in there. Okay, let's go to the other NFL primetime games. Yeah, I want you to pick them. Let's start with tonight's game, the 49ers and Seahawks. The Seahawks are 49ers are favored -3.5.
So Seahawks are on their 3rd right tackle.
Whoa!
Think about that matchup. Nick Bosa.
Are you in the Seahawks facility? Are you working over there?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
That right there makes me want to jump on the 49ers.
Okay.
I think they're still a banged up team. Playing in Seattle is always tough. I think I'm gonna take the Niners -3.5.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna tail you on this. They've had some embarrassing losses. A tough loss to Arizona last week where they've come back. I think all of their losses they've led by 10 points or more. So you can never call it at the end of the game. The Seahawks did drop one at home to the Giants without Malik Neighbors.
Tough.
So we can go ahead and move on, I think, from this one. Okay, the next one is another London game. Woody Johnson won't be there. Tommy Shelby might be. Okay, this is the Jaguars versus the Bears. Kind of a home game. The Jacksonville Jaguars have played in London more than any other team. And so kind of a home game for Jacksonville, but the Chicago is still coming in after a big win against the Panthers at -1.5.
Yeah, and Jags also had a big win last week too. Got in the win column for the first time this season. It's a really close game. Spread's only 1.5, like you said. It really comes down so much to who travels the best.
I think
right?
so.
And it's so hard to predict that. I think the Bears have been there. I heard they flew there on Monday. So right after the game last week, they got straight there trying to acclimate. Big win last week. I think that Caleb is going to do good under the lights. Did you watch that game in London last week?
No, I didn't, but I saw the highlights after.
The stadium that they play in is insane.
Old Tottenham Stadium.
It was great. So I think Caleb's going to do good in that situation. Give me the Bears -1.5.
I'm going to fade you on this. Jacksonville's played in London more than anybody else. To your point of the travel, they're used to traveling to London more than anybody else. Give me them plus 1.5. I do think, and like you said, Chicago's flown in there Monday. That could backfire. They could be filling up on tea and crumpets and taking tours of the palace and stuff like that. When in reality, Trevor Lawrence is back there watching film. You know what I mean? At home in Jacksonville,
getting his mind right,
on Tony Khan's yacht or something like that. Right? Getting his mind up. And so, give me the Jaguars plus 1.5. But that'll be a fun game. That'll be a fun game to watch. Going to the Sunday night game, Bengals versus Giants. Cincinnati's -3.5.
It's kind of the first Sunday night game this week that doesn't jump out at me.
Exactly. I think so too. That was my first thoughts. I was kind of like, maybe this is going to sound harsh, but the did not watch game. This might be, you know what I mean? So,
do you know if Neighbors is going to be back?
I don't know if Neighbors is going to be back.
That definitely affects. Right. Giants did have a big win last week.
They did
in Seattle. Bengals, man, they are
tough loss
after tough loss.
Yeah,
1-4 now, but all the games have been very close. I think I trust Joey B to go in there and take care of business. You said they're favored 3.5?
Yep, Bengals are favored -3.5.
3.5.
In MetLife.
It's such a tough line.
It's a tough line.
they've lost a lot. Okay, so I think the game's going to be close. I'm going to take the Giants. I think it's going to be a close game.
I'm going to take the Giants as well. I bet on them last week, and they proved me wrong, so I'm going to tail them this week. The Monday night game. First game after the aforementioned Bob Salah gets fired. Bills in New York at the Jets. Buffalo's -2.5.
Dude, I love that mantra about after a coach gets fired, the team after the interim.
You do. The last time you bet on it, it hit.
Right. Yeah. And I also like with quarterbacks.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Tough one. Battle of New York here. Bills are coming off a really tough loss where Josh Allen didn't play good. Dude, he's so concussed. Give me the Jets. He's so concussed.
Last time was the original opening night. Last game, this last year when this game was played, it was the opening game, Monday night game. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. The Jets end up going to overtime. They take a punt return to the house. But Bills Mafia showed up right across the bay in New York, over the bridge. I don't even know if you take a bridge from Buffalo to New Jersey.
There's got to be a bridge at some point.
There's got to be a bridge, right? There's bodies of water everywhere. Give me the Bills on a revenge game, -2.5. I see them winning by a field goal. Jett, give me your line of the week of the other games.
Line of the week this week for the NFL, Steelers -3 against the Raiders.
Oh, I like that line.
Steelers coming off a tough loss last week against the Cowboys. Raiders, dude, their organization's just blowing up right now. I don't think there's a lot of leadership in that locker room. Your best player, Devontae Adams, is requesting a trade. Aiden O'Connell stepping in this week. And he's the new quarterback guy, but there's already film on him and stuff. I don't think the team's going to get too fired up about Aiden O'Connell starting the game. So I'm going to take the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, bounce back game after a tough loss last week to cover -3. I think it's in Las Vegas.
Justin Fields also had a rough game last week. Didn't even throw for 150 yards. My line, I thought about the tonight's game but then I saw some stats on Brock Purdy. You want to hear them?
Oh, I would like to hear them. I'm kind of scared though. I like Brock.
He has less total touchdowns than Justin Fields.
Okay.
And this next one's going to get you. He's got a lower completion percentage than Will Levis.
Oh my god! Golly, that's terrifying.
And all he doesn't have is Christian McCaffrey. You know what I mean? That's pretty much the only difference.
And Mason steps up, and he's not bad at all.
Exactly. Every quarterback looks good when he's got time to throw and all that. I'm moving off that game. I'm actually moving on. And Lance Cook, our Sharp's going to hate me for this. Give me the Texans -7 against the Patriots. I think they win by multiple scores. Patriots are starting a new quarterback, Drake May, but his first start against a great defense like the Texans, rookie game. I mean, I just see this is a game that the Texans handle. Okay. Now, to wrap up our final segment, we're gonna do a lightning round, but and you're just gonna pick the games. We're not even gonna talk about the games. Just go gut feeling. You're gonna pick them, and I'm gonna agree or disagree. So say it with me, Jett. On 3, 2, 1, we're gonna go into the lightning round. Yes. Okay. That's not as enthusiastic. Tucker's not here to do the lightning with us. Okay.
Nothing's just fun without Tucker.
Okay. Give me Colts, Titans -2.5.
Titans -2.5.
Titans -2.5. Give me Eagles, Browns. Philly is -9.5.
Give me Browns +9.5.
Give me Philly -9.5. Give me the Packers, Cardinals, Green Bay -5.
Green Bay -5.
Give me Cardinals +5. Give me Buccaneers, Saints. Bucks are -3.5.
Bucks -3.5.
Bucks -3.5. Quarterback change? Spencer Rattler. We're not supposed to be talking about the games. I know. I'm sorry.
That hypes me up. Okay. Rattler could sling it.
I disagree. I'm not a Rattler guy. Okay, here we go. Okay, we'll see. Commanders, Ravens. Baltimore's -6.5.
Can you say that again?
Yep. The Washington Commanders are going into Baltimore and to play the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are favored by 6.5 points.
Give me Jaden Daniels +6.5.
Give me the Ravens -6.5. Okay, here we go. Give me Chargers, Broncos. The Chargers are -3.
Chargers -3.
Give me Broncos +3.
A lot of splits.
All right, here we go. All right, you've already talked about the Lions. You already talked about that game. Lions, Cowboys, Detroit's -3.
Detroit -3.
Give me Detroit -3. Falcons, Panthers. Atlanta's -6.
Atlanta -6.
Atlanta's -6. And there it is.
Gosh, I picked a lot of favorites,
bye weeks, Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings. Thank you, everybody. Well, I'm sweating just off that
That
lightning
was
round a little
intense,
bit. That was
dude.
intense. Okay. We need to. I need to go. Maybe a halftime next time. I need some water.
Take
or
a
something.
walk,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. A little break.
A little
Blow
lap.
off some steams. Maybe a smoke break or two. Smoke them if you got
Tommy
them.
Shelby.
Tommy Shelby. Smoke if you got them. Thanks for hanging out with us on this special episode. We'll be back next week in the middle of the week to preview Franklin versus Ravenwood. We miss the boys. We miss you. Have a great rest of your day. And for any rest of your day, for anybody betting on the games, good luck against the house. We'll see you then.